We are responsible for our own happiness and well-being. It is up to us to identify what is beneficial to our situation in life and what is not beneficial to us. Happiness is an active choice. Happiness lies in small things. Happiness is most real when it's shared with others. To achieve happiness, it helps to appreciate and accept uncertainty. Remember, happiness is free. So log into Apple TV on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram every day in the week because happiness is free.
Fellow Sierra Leoneans, it's my singular honor to announce to citizens that the reign of President Sam Mogbe, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, has been ousted.
When I see this, we don't want them. Anybody will get home. Now we will record this day in history.
I thereby proclaim the following orders come into effect immediately. The legislative is thereby dissolved. All mayors and local governments are dissolved.
Your desire and intention will not be the same the moment you sit on that seat.
I am doing this for the people.
The people of Canlı are protesting and promise to bring unrest to this nation.
Country is not stable.
What do I need to stay in power?
Either you kill or be killed.
It's so huge. That's not nothing. You know well, you want to vomit.
What nonsense is this? That is slavery and human rights violation.
The pagan girl in Aru.
As we come to the close of the private inquiry today, the people await the final.
Fellow Sierra Leoneans, it's my singular honor to announce to citizens that the reign of President Sam Mogbe, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, has been ousted.
When I see this, we don't want them. Anybody will get home. Now we will record this day in history.
I thereby proclaim the following orders come into effect immediately. The legislative is thereby dissolved. All mayors and local governments are dissolved.
Your desire and intention will not be the same the moment you sit on that seat.
I am doing this for the people.
The people of Canlı are protesting and promise to bring unrest to this nation.
Country is not stable.
What do I need to stay in power?
Either you kill or be killed.
It's so huge. That's not nothing. You know well, you want to vomit.
What nonsense is this? That is slavery and human rights violation.
The pagan girl in Aru.
As we come to the close of the private inquiry today, the people await the final.
Oh yeah. Yes, boss. See, while you're on motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold, I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises in my song. See, while you're on the motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold, I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises in my song. Yeah. Green, white, and blue, no place like home, yeah. Yeah. No place like home. Sierra Leone, I'm in home. Land land of the free, yes, I like me alone. Beautiful people, beautiful country, Christian and Muslim, we live like a family. We get a different culture, the land be good for agriculture. Salon, yes, we blessed with nature, with big fishes, now we ocean. And so we food is sweet and nice, cassava leaf oil with beans and rice. Fufu and okra is sweet for try, a place to visit you need for fly. Come Sierra Leone, the motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold. I'll forever be in love, sing your praises in my song. Sierra Leone, the motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold. I'll forever be in love, sing your praises in my song. Oh yeah, green, white and blue, no place like home, yeah. No place like home, no place like home, no place like home. Green, white and blue, no place like home, yeah. No place like home, and no place like home. Sierra Leone, the motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold. I'll forever be in love, sing your praises in my song. Sierra Leone, the motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold. I'll forever be in love, sing your praises in my song. Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, Venom, nyamia.
Ila boy kilo de na.
Kinks music, Moamia. Okay, I'm sorry, music iji, padigo. I'm stuck on the mix. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm feeling like I'm unwanted, but putting my mind switch up to silence. Dark days around me, brody, I'm frightened. Mama, they tell me, say, son, no mind them more. I just wanna be alone, I just wanna be alone, home alone. I don't wanna pick the phone, I don't wanna pick the phone, leave me alone. I just want to feed me soul, I just want to see me grow, I'm going ghost. I just wanna be alone, I just wanna be alone, home alone. I so dull, no one for help me pass the Lord, and no one for one circle. Just turn you back and shut the door. Yeah, too many haters, now me back them many. But putting clean on me, my way is scary. I turn to me, go then tell I'm making no left me. They cross way at the totin on me, head it down heavy. Fake friends, they pretend for heal me. No rate them, cause deep down they hate me. They fight them, Neo, the Matrix. Lifestyle, right now, na low-key. Mix up the gin and sip everything and make up a brighter day. Lock up my room, they sit down the booze, I look up to God, they pray. I just wanna be alone, I just wanna be alone, home alone. I don't wanna pick the phone, I don't wanna pick the phone, leave me alone. I just want to feed me soul, I just want to see me grow, I'm going ghost. I just wanna be alone, I just wanna be alone, home alone. I just wanna be alone, I just wanna be alone, never see me grow. I'm going ghost. I just wanna be alone. I just wanna be alone. Home alone. I just wanna be alone. Home alone. I just wanna be alone, home alone. I just wanna be alone, home alone.
I'm stuck on the mix.
Them say soup sweet, nah, money kill 'em. Love not to buy food. Love is blind, but I can see it in your eyes. Don't take me for granted, oh. If I tell me, make I know. If I tell me one time, oh. If I tell me, make I know. If I be know, I never left you, baby. If I be know, I don't give you what you want. If I be know, I never left you, baby. If I be know, I don't give you what you need, yeah, yeah. Love sweet like banana, it tastes like honey, and I don't want no wahala. I just want love, my baby. Yeah, love sweet like banana, it tastes like honey, and I don't want no wahala. I just want love, somebody. I don't want no drama. I don't want wahala. I don't want no drama. I don't want palava. If I tell me, make I know. If I tell me what I know. If I tell me, make I know. If I be know, I never left you, baby. If I be know, I don't give you what you want. If I be know, I never left you, baby. If I be know, I don't give you what you need, yeah, yeah. Love sweet like banana, it tastes like honey, and I don't want no wahala. I just want love, my baby. Yeah, love sweet like banana, it tastes like honey, and I don't want no wahala. I just want love, somebody. Come sit at the Marcus, come sit at the Marcus.
Zip on the case again, yeah. Bang. So me say mellow for the beat, yeah. Say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire. I'm tired, say I don't tire. Say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire. Yeah, I'm tired, say I don't tire. It's like the more I they love, now the more I they get just pain. The more they love, now the more they get heartbreak. Now the reason this will make us say I no go love again. Now the reason this will make us say I no go trust again. Maria to take me out the breaker. Khadija to take me out the breaker. I show on the love in me, it break me heart. Aki and the trust in me, it break me heart. Say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire, yeah I'm tired. Say I don't tire, say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire, yeah I'm tired. Say I don't tire, say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire, yeah I'm tired. Say I don't tire, say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire, yeah I'm tired. Say I don't tire.
If it in my money neck, I go feel for see don't let it talk. If I dey laugh, he dey vex, you know reply me text, tell me how we go walk. See, I hate she flag, but me on the chair. How when you vex for me, only know the wear. I give you love, but I don't ever see you. No, but you know they understand it. Me, I don't get time for fatty. Even what don't take me tell me. Me, I don't tell, me, I don't tell.
You don't love and you push it to the side. I give you what we had, you don't even recognize. I show you real love, and you push it to the side, baby. To the side, to the side, baby.
Maria to take me out the breaker. So the time. Khadija to take me out the breaker. I show on the love in me, it break me heart. Aki and the trust in me, it break me heart. One time. Say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire, yeah I'm tired. Say I don't tire, say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire, yeah I'm tired. Say I don't tire, say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire, yeah I'm tired. Say I don't tire, say me I'm tired, yeah I don't tire, yeah I'm tired. Say I don't tire.
Lamzo J on the mix.
I want you to promise me that you'll never leave me.
I promise.
Not popping, and don't break me heart for no reason. Just don't break. Not popping, and don't break me heart for no reason. For no reason. Breakfast is not for me. Now robot and don't turn me. I know say I dey give up, but relationship not funny. Cause they don't break me heart. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't get it now, I just dey walk off. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't get it now, I just dey walk off. No more, no more, no more. I feel no pain no more. No pain no more. I just go no more, no more, no more. I feel no pain no more. No pain no more. I don't date in, no. I'm on ice. I'm just flexing now. Shoot on sight. I don't date in, no. I'm on ice. I'm just flexing now. Shoot on sight. Then don't break me heart for no reason. Then don't break me then don't break me heart for no reason. For no reason. All these bruises that they left in my heart, I use them not to walk through the dark. How you like me now that I feel no pain, but I'm still in the game? Cause they don't break me heart. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't get it now, I just dey walk off. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't get it now, I just dey walk off.
No pain no more. No pain no more. I don't dead in, no. I'm on ice. I'm just flexing now. Shoot on sight. I don't dead in, no. I'm on ice. I'm just flexing now. Shoot on sight. No pain, and don't break me still for no reason. And don't break me, no pain, and don't break me heart for no reason. For no reason. Girl, I want you right by me forever. Will you be mine? Please, baby, mine. Oh, gosh. Big folk and country up in these, yeah.
It's Bash on the beat.
Girl, I want you right by me forever. Will you be mine? Please, baby, mine. Oh, I only see you, I don't see no other. Will you be mine? Please, baby, mine. Mine. Me want send you love letter. Me want you, now me lie. Yeah. Me not see no other girl but you. Me not see no other girl. Me want send you love letter. Me want you, now me lie. Me not see no other girl but you. Me not see no other girl but you.
Girl, you get the game, you feel by FIFA. Are you fine, so I know that you fever. Happiness with the love, cause I see far. Back in the days, baby, you know me neighbor. Give me one chance for make I love you. Whispering on here just to keep it laughing. I'm addicted to your love, I can't do without it. You wanna into mine like Illuminati. Now they kiss with a guy like you and let me go. I know they kiss and tell, baby, that's for sure. You're the queen of my life, I will never let you go. Girl, you bad like Zizi.
Girl, I want you right by me forever. Will you be mine? Please, baby, mine. Oh, I only see you, I don't see no other. Will you be mine? Please, baby, mine. Mine. Me want send you love letter. Me want you, now me lie. Yeah. Me not see no other girl but you. Me not see no other girl. Me want send you love letter. Me want you, now me life. Me not see no other girl but you. Me not see no other girl but you.
Yeah, girl, how you bad so? I like the way you cool and relax so. Turn around, baby, what you cack so? Hold up on you, girl, I bet by your swag. Louis on the bag, put you on the glasses. Perfume smell so sweet, Victoria's Secret. Everybody know you classic, not a secret. Sit by me side, girl, I'm a big girl boss. Waist no flat, let you jacket. I stop be fighting, now that make now you a take. We fight by them all and not a party bets. Girl, you bad like City, give it.
Girl, I want you right by me forever. Will you be mine? Please, baby, mine. Oh, I only see you, I don't see no other. Will you be mine? Please, baby, mine. Mine. Me want send you love letter. Me want you, now me lie. Yeah. Me not see no other girl but you. Me not see no other girl. Me want send you love letter. Me want you, now me life. Me not see no other girl but you. Me not see no other girl but you.
It's Bash on the beat.
best
Sierra
friend.
Leone is an independent member of the Commonwealth, and Britannia brings Queen Elizabeth II, their own queen and head of the Commonwealth.
Konski rich but we live so poor. If you lex alone, you go let this flow. Youth them stress, now the kush we dey blow. Where we get small cash, we dey take cocoa. Life nasty like a shit na po. We don't use store, we dey kick and so. Talk am go, talk am cam. It don't make sense, make we left and so. This year look rough, we dey use shampoo. The youth them bounce, they raise tempo. I lucky, we don't say pan this. War done, we don't get this. Saloon, 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 we like saloon. Saloon, 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 mama saloon. Yeah, saloon, Nigeria, Ghana, safe don't left me far. Saloon, now so young boy go live it on to par. Saloon, the green, white and blue go shine like star. Saloon, from 1961 we still there. Saloon, Nigeria, Ghana, safe don't left me far. Saloon, now so young boy go live it on to par. Saloon, the green, white and blue go shine like star. Saloon, the country small and broke. The youth them not they woke. Just like Guy, he make a one for joke. Not totally for laugh. This one not so joke. You compete then they run. Salon you still late set. The question now who's them? When Salon go better. Price then just they go up. Imagine rest and pepe. Boua bise seke. Salon we still a neke. Guinea sef they laugh we never sef they take. Saloon, 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 we like saloon. Saloon, 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 mama saloon. From 1961 we still there. Saloon, Nigeria, Ghana, safe don't left me far. Saloon, now so young boy go live it on to par. Saloon, the green, white and blue go shine like star. Saloon, from 1961 we still there. Saloon, Nigeria, Ghana, safe don't left me far. Saloon, now so young boy go live it on to par. Saloon, the green, white and blue go shine like star. There's no complex where you come na me zone. Country stress make a pull jabon. Four pack push make a sell me phone. Son say make active this place na home. Boy not come up but the gun sit soft. Man get snitch but the gun see rough. Take some mind make some man go off. We call Papa God but the line they off. No kidnap but the youth them lost. If he lex alone na for put some boss. Youth them stress so we take the push all day. We Norway all team boss. From 1961 we still there. Saloon, Nigeria, Ghana, safe don't left me far. Saloon, now so young boy go live it on to par. Saloon, the green, white and blue go shine like star. Saloon, from 1961 we still there. Saloon, Nigeria, Ghana, safe don't left me far. Saloon, now so young boy go live it on to par. Saloon, the green, white and blue go shine like star. Saloon, 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 we like saloon. Saloon, 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 mama saloon. No complex zone. Scrap.
Alman on the mix.
Cali up in this. Watch him. Go.
And Bosch on the beat.
Anita.
There we go.
Bobo, take a easy bite the sucker. I'm by my boko. I'm feeling it in. I'm out of control. I'm just still in the night. 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 Nah, peep, papa, peep, safe. Nah, now I know want to forgo. Nah, peep, papa, peep, safe. And now I'm out of control. Nah. Life is like a judge, anything I want's naive. I'm out of control, I take a stroll. You want for chop me, yeah, babe. I know I don't total do let conk bow, but I want you to know this night I just can't be. No, no, no. I'm not your regular baby, but I'm in Monday, I'm in medulla, baby. I'm not your regular baby, but I'm in Monday, I'm in medulla, baby. Yes, I'm married. I'm just here to have fun. Wait. I'm married. I'm just here to catch fun. I'm just still in the night. 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 No, beep, I can't beep, say. No, now I know want to forgo. No, beep, I can't beep, say. And now I'm out of control. No. Anita, there we go. Baba, take a easy bike, so call. I'm by my boko. I'm feeling it in, I'm out of control. I'm just still in the night. 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 No, beep, I can't beep, safe. No, now I know want to forgo. No, beep, I can't beep, safe. And now I'm out of control. No. Life is like a judge, anything I want is naive. I'm out of control, let's take a stroll. You want for chop me, yeah, babe. I know I don't totally do let combo, but I want you to know this night I just do. I got her own to control. But not beep, I can't be. No. I'm not your regular baby, but I'm in Monday, I'm in medulla, baby. I'm not your regular baby, but I'm in Monday, I'm in medulla, baby. Yes, I'm married. I'm just here to have fun. Wait. I'm married. I'm just here to catch fun. I'm just still in the night. 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 No, beep, I can't beep, say. No, now I know want to forgo. No, beep, I can't beep, say. And now I'm out of control. No. I'm just
Fellow Sierra Leoneans, it's my singular honor to announce to citizens that the reign of President Sam Mogbe, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, has been ousted.
When I see this, we don't want them. Anybody will get home. Let we record this day in history.
I thereby proclaim the following orders come into effect immediately. The legislative is thereby dissolved. All mayors and local governments are dissolved.
Your desire and intention will not be the same the moment you sit on that seat.
I am doing this for the people.
The people of Canlı are protesting and promise to bring unrest to this nation.
Country is not stable.
What do I need to stay in power?
Either you kill or be killed.
It's so huge.
What's not
nothing? You know well, you want to vomit.
What nonsense is this? British slavery and human rights violation.
The pagan girl in Aru.
As we come to the close of the private inquiry today, the people await the final.
The side way I come out.
Let's play.
The side way I come out. Cali bag. The side way I come out. Rich man baba. No complex zone. Watch am guy. The side way I come out. The gods are them don't see me people and oh snap and body. The side way I come out. Me people and poor suffer for turn to somebody. The side way I come out. But if na profession, the girl and say I ain't a work. The side way I come out. Me man they want money, I tell you fist and a joke. This not the place where I grow. This not the place where I born. The ghetto the place where I know. Give me the weed, make a bond. 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 Man is so hot like volcano. Born with the devil. Party na yaso na hell. 20 they sleep na the room. Man in the beds. Can't see where us fever sell. Man and don't use to the odor. We never mind. The guts are then don't see and smell. The adopt make man and disorder. If no get limits, then can go the pots and the cover. Man and they die and they go. I look na the grave. R.I.P. done so me brother. Intention the life past me. Now he is gone. He was my only little brother. Them a me no get laugh. Them papa no they play. Ali dead stumble cool. The young boy no they say. We mocks no they flop no so all man they pray. The side way I come out some born again. Some CC they sell and some CC give away. Done na me zone and go kill you for phone. Inside me hood you for believe you bone. Ride up the hill man and anger like drone. All we want see na that foreign money. We looking for toys, welcome to salon. The side way I come out. The cops are them don't see me people and oh snap and body. The side way I come out. Me people and poor, you suffer for turn to somebody. The side way I come out. But if na profession, the girl and say I ain't a work. The side way I come out. Me man they want money, I tell you fist and a joke. This not the place where I grow. This not the place where I born. The ghetto the place where I know. Give me the weed, make a bond. 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 Calm down, me zone, make I tell you what po. Then can't go you drugs if you left and a dough. The boys then they rub like na cream. Man then so bloody. Man then they kill for the dough. They offer you money, they hot spy you chain and you watch. Paddy go talk and before. All seen above. Police then gains with me zone. Man then they run with some cough. Push and the ash with the puff. Give me the stuff. Tasting jamba make a cough. Guys and sell and sheep look and then align the anger. Now the streets they hustle for the dough. We fed up, we tired, we need a messiah. The side where them born me people and poor. We hot like a fire, money we desire. We sick and we tired, we all want for blow. The side where I come out. The cops are them don't see me people and oh snap and body. The side where I come out. Me people and poor, you suffer for turn to somebody. The side where I come out. But if na profession, the girl and say I ain't a work. The side where I come out. Me man they want money, I tell you fist and a joke. This not the place where I grow. This not the place where I born. The ghetto the place where I know. Give me the weed, make a bond. Give me the weed, make a bond. Give me the weed, make a bond. Give me the weed, make a bun. Give me the weed, make a bun. The side where I come out. The gods are them God see me people and all snap and body. The side where I come out. Me people and poor, you suffer for turn to somebody. The side where I come out. But if na profession, the girl and say I ain't a work. The side where I come out. Me man they want money, I tell you fi say na joke. This not the place where I grow. This not the place where I born. The ghetto the place where I know. Give me the weed, make a bun. Give me the weed, make a bun. Give me the weed, make a bun.
Alman on the mix.
Which man, Baba?
Oh, did you, I'd figure.
T-Base on the track.
They say time on the go, man on the grow, sign on the show. I need for focus, I need for stand like a man. Hustle and buy me my house. Daddy say why me not done school? This not the life where I don't choose. This give me joy more than law school. Not just a vibe, I just to tell you me mind. How I feel deep inside. No me no need you advice. Me just they take me advice now. Make we not give up. The only things we they go through now this life will make it easier. Yeah. Make we not give up. Say we they struggle, they fight every law, we they break and forget money. Yeah. Make we not give up.
Me mama look the sky and say let me sunshine. School all year, I dey na the front line. I focus na the streets, I know all the road sign. Haters watching me, I know na me own sign. Lot of mercy, lot of things na the streets where we don't see. A lot of things na the streets where we don't be. Walking dead na the streets like a zombie. Done the gully side man and vex na the waff. Me mama dey na host, na me get for making laugh. Make am for myself, plus I give me brother half. We best say they come, not so all man for call. Switch your phone off, not so all man for call. Thing and all this still let them suck and all be seen. If the industry in a league man and soft for the season.
Make we not give up. The only things we they go through now this life will make it easier. Yeah. Make we not give up. Say we they struggle, they fight every law, we they break and forget money. Yeah. Make we not give up.
One day you go make am party, just keep the head up. I still keep the faith, so the skits make we fed up. This life make we fed up. See map like a man, left sleep, now forget up. Why you want give up? I did see much change. If you go distance, you go must drive range. From the leons to the dollar, I need for in exchange. So I focus on me hustle and I stay sharp. I mean I stay sharp. Puts me na the game coach, I go play scrap. Number 9 vision, elect the way dark. The side way I come out, I remember way back.
Way back. The one that we they look up to, no they look down to we. Then they look down on we. Oh, they know I see we grow. But as long as I'm alive, long as I the grind, God no go left me so. God no go left me so. Make we not give up.
Alman on the mix. Fellow Sierra Leoneans, it's my singular honor to announce to citizens that the reign of President Sam Mogbe, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, has been ousted.
When I see this, we don't want them. Anybody will get phone. Let we record this day in history.
I thereby proclaim the following orders come into effect immediately. The legislative is thereby dissolved. All mayors and local governments are dissolved.
Your desire and intention will not be the same the moment you sit on that seat.
I am doing this for the people.
The people of Canlı are protesting and promise to bring unrest to this nation.
Country is not stable.
What do I need to stay in power?
Either you kill or be killed.
It's so huge.
What's not enough?
You know well, you want to vomit.
What nonsense is this? British slavery and human rights violation.
The pagan girl in Aru.
As we come to the close of the private inquiry today, the people await the final.
In March of 1991, the country of Sierra Leone was plunged into an 11-year civil war when fighters of the Revolutionary United Front, the RUF, launched a war from the east of the country near the border with Liberia in order to overthrow the government. At the time, the RUF rebel group was under the leadership of Fode Sanko. During this period, Fode Sanko had a close relationship with the Liberian warlord turned president, Charles Taylor. They had met in Libya at one of Muammar Gaddafi's training camps for revolutionary movements on the continent. In fact, Charles Taylor's troops accompanied the RUF rebels when they invaded Sierra Leone. This civil war in Sierra Leone resulted in the death of an estimated 50,000 people, as well as the displacement of over 500,000 people. In this episode of African Biographics, we cover the grim story of Sierra Leone's Revolutionary United Front and their leader, Fode Sanko. So this was the state of affairs in Sierra Leone at the time. The country was in a fragile position after gaining its independence from Britain in 1961. In the 30 years ranging from 1961 to 1991, successive post-colonial governments could not provide clean water, dependable electricity, decent education, or affordable health services to most of the masses in the country. The dominant regime, called the All People's Congress Party, also repressed its opponents, conducted fraudulent elections, and fostered a culture of corruption and impunity in Sierra Leone. So the environment in the country was rife for disaffected young people to stand up and pose a challenge to the administration of President Joseph Momo. This is where Fode Sanko and the RUF came into the picture. Fode Saibana Sanko was born on the 17th of October 1937 in the northern part of Sierra Leone. He joined the Sierra Leone Army in 1956, 5 years before the nation gained independence from the British. In 1971, while he was a corporal in the Sierra Leone Army, Fode Sanko was expelled and imprisoned for 7 years at the Pademba Road prison in Freetown. This was because he had participated in a mutiny against the government. Upon his release from prison, Fode Sanko worked as a wedding and portrait photographer and as a cameraman for the state television service in the south and east of Sierra Leone. It was here where he first encountered young anti-government radicals who felt aggrieved by the government of Sierra Leone. This group of young students recruited Fode Sanko into their movement. This is the point where the seeds were sown for the later formation of the RUF. So Fode Sanko and other Sierra Leoneans were recruited for military training in Benghazi, Libya, for an armed revolution against the regime of President Joseph Momo. This was in 1987. In this group of radicals, Fode Sanko was at least a decade older than most of his contemporaries, and they referred to him as Pa or Papi. While there, Sanko and two other trainees, Abu Kanu and Rashid Mansare, met and befriended Charles Taylor, who was the head of the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, the NPFL. Charles Taylor had started his own revolution against Samuel Doe's regime in Liberia in 1989. So in this regard, Fode Sanko helped Taylor launch the Liberian Civil War on Christmas Eve of 1989. The war-ravaged nation of Liberia gave Fode Sanko and his fellow comrades a fertile recruiting ground and a launching pad for their revolution in Sierra Leone. Fode Sanko returned to Sierra Leone in 1991, and with the help of Abu Kanu and Rashid Mansare, the crew formed the Revolutionary United Front, the RUF. At the time, the government of Joseph Momo was widely perceived by its citizens as being corrupt and having caused widespread unemployment in Sierra Leone. So it came as no surprise that in the beginning, the RUF was popular with some citizens in Sierra Leone. This is because in the beginning, Fode Sanko promised many improvements, such as free healthcare and public education, as well as a share of the diamond revenues, and this was if he managed to overthrow the incumbent government. So the RUF began its operations on the 23rd of March 1991 when it launched its first attack of the civil war in villages in the diamond-rich eastern province of Sierra Leone. Unfortunately, as the RUF control spread, so did reports of widespread atrocities. When the RUF troops attacked the town, they usually tore it down, burning schools, hospitals, and homes. Those captured were forced to work as slaves for the RUF, and women were often forced into sexual slavery. Fode Sanko personally ordered most of the operations under the title Operation Pay Yourself. Under this operation, he encouraged his troops to loot anything they could find. Eventually, Sanko's allies, Rashid Mansaray and Abu Kanu, complained of Fode Sanko's brutal tactics. Well, unsurprisingly, both these gentlemen were summarily executed. By 1992, Fode Sanko and the RUF had gained control of many of Sierra Leone's diamond fields. However, contrary to what he had promised, Fode Sanko used the proceeds from the diamond revenues not for the betterment of the citizens, but to buy military supplies for Charles Taylor and himself. These actions over the next 4 years tanked the country's economy and led to starvation for many of its people. When the RUF started gaining momentum, President Momo was caught off guard and so he had to quickly come up with a plan to counter this insurgency. So he doubled the size of the army from 3,000 men to almost 6,000. However, this didn't work out as planned for Momo. Because of corruption and mismanagement, Sierra Leone's frontline troops were badly underpaid and demoralized, and this came back to bite Joseph Momo. This is because in April of 1992, a group of the Sierra Leone army from the Eastern Front traveled to Freetown, the capital, to protest their situation. Within a day, this mutiny became a coup and Joseph Momo fled to Guinea. A military junta, the National Provisional Ruling Council, was formed, with the young Captain Valentine Stresser as chairman. Stresser became the youngest head of state in the world at just 25 years old. In the first half of 1994, the RUF intensified its violent campaign, and in response, the government of Stresser launched a total war on the RUF as the conflict spread to the northern part of the country. This period of fighting had made it impossible to carry out the voter registration needed for a referendum on the draft constitution in preparation for a return to civilian rule. Further widespread fighting occurred through much of the country early in 1995, and the RUF appeared able to strike at will. They overran the bauxite and rutile mines and seized hostages. The closure of these mines deprived the government of about 70% of its export earnings, and many thousands of people fled to Guinea to become refugees. In February of that year, however, government forces retook the Sierra rutile mine from the rebels. At the time, this mine was the largest employer in the country. The Stresser administration was hesitant to enter into negotiations with the RUF. They claimed that the RUF was acting as a pawn for Charles Taylor's movement in Liberia. Their argument was that there was great uncertainty as to why the violent outbreak against the government had occurred at all and just what the RUF represented. A common theory was that the RUF had been created or sponsored by Charles Taylor in order to undermine the Sierra Leone government. This was because the government of Sierra Leone had supported an ECOWAS intervention in Liberia. But anyways, by mid-1995, Captain Valentine Stresser started seeking a peace settlement with the RUF. But the RUF continued its violent raids, and in mid-December 1995, it attacked a village that was only 65 kilometers from Freetown. By this time, the government had expanded the army to 13,000, and the war was taking up to 75% of budget revenues. Yet, despite this huge effort, the government was unable to contain the RUF, let alone defeat it. So as a result, the government turned to the mercenary firm Executive Outcomes as well as Russian helicopter crews for military assistance. The mercenaries' price for their services included a substantial share of the country's diamond mines. Although the mercenaries' 21-month stint in Sierra Leone cost the country $35 million, they managed to get the job done. The RUF rebels were smashed and confined to small pockets of the country. The diamond fields were secured, and Fode Sanko was forced to the negotiating table in order to discuss allowing free elections. Now, although a meeting of the government and the RUF was held in Abidjan in the Ivory Coast on 2 December 1995, the RUF refused to take part in the elections that were planned for February of 1996 without first obtaining an end to government hostilities and the withdrawal from Sierra Leone of the foreign mercenaries and foreign troops. On 16 January 1996, a bloodless coup was mounted to topple Valentine Stresser and replace him briefly with Brigadier General Julius Maada Bio, who was also a member of Stresser's NPRC. This is because they were not satisfied with Valentine Stresser's handling of the peace process, and they also feared that he would not transfer power to a civilian government as originally promised. So elections for a return to civilian rule were held in February of 1996. Ahmed Tejan Kaba of the Sierra Leone's People's Party was installed as president in March of 1996. His administration then went on to broker negotiations with Fode Sanko and RUF, and they happened throughout most of the year 1996. The parties finally signed a peace agreement on 30 November 1996, and this agreement was known as the Abidjan Agreement. The Abidjan Agreement covered an immediate ceasefire, the disarming of the RUF, and its reconstitution as a political party. It soon became clear, however, that the promised peace was unlikely to work. The peace negotiations in the Ivory Coast had surprisingly given Fode Sanko more legitimacy with his cause. He was also absolved of responsibility for his past activities. So when Fode Sanko saw that his military strength had increased and that he had more leverage, he and his forces resumed attacks and broke off the peace agreement. The rebels were unwilling to disarm, and Fode Sanko declared that there was no trust and confidence between him and the government. Also, what gave Fode Sanko more confidence was that Western powers had advised the Kaba administration to cut off its ties with the mercenaries because their role in the civil war was distasteful. So the government of Kaba complied with this in early 1997. So this turn of events gave the RUF rebels impetus to further wreak havoc in the country. So the Kaba administration came up with a plan in order to sabotage the RUF. They colluded with Nigeria's military government to arrest Fode Sanko on arms possession charges. So Fode Sanko was arrested on these charges at the Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos, Nigeria on the 12th of March 1997. The government also then supported the attempt by some senior members of the RUF War Council who had been more supportive of the Abidjan Agreement to replace the arrested Fode Sanko as the leader. But this attempt failed after Sam Bokari, also referred to as General Mosquito, whom Fode Sanko had anointed as the interim leader, arrested these members of the RUF War Council. This effectively ended any opportunity for the legitimization of the RUF under the Abidjan Peace Accord. On Fode Sanko's advice, Sam Bokari established strong ties with Charles Taylor, who at that time was now the president of Liberia. Charles Taylor provided Bokari and the new interim RUF leadership with facilities and communications equipment in Monrovia, the capital of Liberia, and Charles Taylor claimed that this was in order to facilitate the organization's peace efforts. In reality, these facilities became the base for the RUF leadership to work jointly with Charles Taylor in training and equipping the RUF, as well as to plan attacks in Sierra Leone and exploit revenues from Sierra Leone's diamond mines. Sierra Leone was thrown into further chaos because the government of Ahmed Kaba lasted no longer than 14 months. What transpired was that on the 25th of May 1997, a group of 20 soldiers stormed Freetown's Pademba Road prison, where they released Major Johnny Paul Koroma. Major Koroma was a dissident officer who was being held in prison in connection with a coup plot. So this group seized the radio station and announced the formation of the Armed Forces Revolutionary Council, the AFRC. They said that the AFRC was now in charge of Sierra Leone. Thousands of soldiers wearing red shirts and bandanas roamed Freetown, looting and shooting people at will. Marauding gangs ransacked supermarkets, offices, banks, shops, and private houses. Given this turn of events, President Ahmed Kaba fled to nearby Guinea. Foreigners were evacuated and thousands of civilians headed for exile. Freetown became a rundown city. To add insult to injury, Koroma's group had no clear strategy other than to seize power. They declared that the civil war was over. The AFRC also naively invited the RUF to join it and form a people's army. Fode Sanko, who was in Nigeria awaiting charges of illegal possession of arms, endorsed this move, and the acting RUF commander, Sam Bokari, moved his forces into Freetown. When the RUF forces arrived in Freetown, looting, rape and murder quickly followed. So in February of 1998, ECOMOG soldiers forced the AFRC and the RUF out of Freetown in a fierce battle that took the lives of many civilians. The ECOMOG soldiers managed to restore President Kaba to office. A total of 47 individuals were convicted of treason and other charges associated with the AFRC and the RUF administration, and they were sentenced to death. Fode Sanko, who had been arrested in Nigeria and returned to Sierra Leone, was also tried, found guilty, and sentenced to death. But although ECOMOG secured some of the larger towns in the north and eastern part of the country, it could not decisively defeat the AFRC or the RUF. By January of 1999, Sierra Leone was in dire straits, and world leaders intervened to promote negotiations between the RUF and the government. Fode Sanko was freed to participate in these peace talks. These negotiations started in Lomé, the capital of Togo. The Lomé Peace Agreement was signed on July 7, 1999, and this agreement proposed a power-sharing plan that included Sanko and other rebels in the government and required the RUF and the AFRC forces to surrender their weapons. The Lomé Agreement also gave Fode Sanko the vice presidency of Sierra Leone as well as control of the country's diamond mines in return for a cessation of the fighting and the deployment of a United Nations peacekeeping force to monitor the disarmament process. Unfortunately, the international community failed to read the glaring signs that the RUF had no intention of laying down the weapons that were the source of their political and economic power. With the RUF's unchallenged control of the diamond fields, these precious stones flowed out through Charles Taylor, and weapons flowed into Sierra Leone through Liberia. At the same time, there was continuing violent clashes in the northern part of the country. 6,000 United Nations peacekeepers arrived in Sierra Leone to help with the peacekeeping efforts. However, by the beginning of the year 2000, it was obvious that the civil war had not come to an end. If anything, it looked set to become even worse. In February, the deterioration in relations between the different sides in the Sierra Leone civil war persuaded the United Nations to increase the number of peacekeepers to 11,000, and this made it the largest peacekeeping force in the world at that time. The Lomé Peace Agreement had collapsed by May of 2000 when the RUF abducted 500 United Nations peacekeepers, an action which led to full-scale fighting between the RUF and the Sierra Leone army. When an angry mob marched on Fode Sanko's heavily guarded home to demand the peacekeepers' freedom, the RUF guards opened fire, killing 12 people. Fode Sanko fled but was captured a week later when he crept back to his home to try and recover a large packet of diamonds he had left behind. With the arrest of Fode Sanko, the RUF disintegrated. On 18 January 2002, the devastating 11-year civil conflict in Sierra Leone officially ended when all the parties to the conflict issued a declaration of the end of the war. The RUF insurgents, who had fought successive governments since 1991, completed disarmament and demobilization. Fode Sanko was handed over to the British. He was indicted on 17 counts for various war crimes, including the use of child soldiers and crimes against humanity. On July 29, 2003, Fode Sanko died of complications from a stroke while awaiting trial. He was 65 years old. In the Sierra Leone Civil War, about 50,000 people were killed and more than 500,000 people were displaced, and the nation's infrastructure was destroyed. But the story does not end here, and it is not all doom and gloom. Sierra Leone has been on a path of healing, and this country represents one of the most successful cases of peacekeeping and peace building. Many years later, after the declared cessation of this conflict in 2002, the country has remained relatively stable and is moving on from this dark chapter. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been Tatenda for African Biographics. Until next time, cheers. Have a good one.
Fellow Sierra Leoneans, it's my singular honor to announce to citizens that the reign of President Sam Mogbe, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, has been ousted.
When I see this, we don't want them. Anybody will get home. Let we record this day in history.
I thereby proclaim the following orders come into effect immediately. The legislative is thereby dissolved. All mayors and local governments are dissolved.
Your desire and intention will not be the same the moment you sit on that seat.
I am doing this for the people.
The people of Canlı are protesting and promise to bring unrest to this nation.
Country is not stable.
What do I need to stay in power?
Either you kill or be killed.
It's so huge.
What's
not
not
nothing. You know well, you want to perform it.
What nonsense is this? British slavery and human rights violation.
Le pays qui est arrivé.
As we come to the close of the private inquiry today, the people await the final.
Oh yeah. Yes, boss. See, while you're on motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold, I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises in my song. See, while you're on the motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold, I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises in my song. Yeah. Green, white, and blue, no place like home, yeah. Yeah. No place like home. Sierra Leone, I'm in home. Land of the free, yes, I like me salon. Beautiful people, beautiful country. Christian and Muslim, we live like a family. We get a different culture. The land be good for agriculture. Salon, yes, we blessed with nature. With big fishes, now we ocean. And so we food is sweet and nice. Cassava leaf oil with beans and rice. Fufu and okra is sweet for try. A place to visit, you need for fly. Come Sierra Leone, the motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold. I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises in my song. Sierra Leone, the motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold. I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises. gold. I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises in my song. Sierra Leone, the motherland, a land of diamonds and of gold. I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises in my song. Oh yeah, land of diamonds and of gold. I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises in my song. Sierra Leone, the motherland, land of diamonds and of gold. I'll forever be in love. Sing your praises in my song. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
We are responsible for our own happiness and well-being. It is up to us to identify what is beneficial to our situation in life and what is not beneficial to us. Happiness is an active choice. Happiness lies in small things. Happiness is most real when it's shared with others. To achieve happiness, it helps to appreciate and accept uncertainty. Remember, happiness is free. So log into Apple TV on Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram every day in the week because happiness is free.